Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is sponsored by 3on3 Hoops Hub. 3on3 Hoops Hub has run over 350 3on3 basketball leagues for kids since 1997. 3on3 is the ideal format for players to get a lot of opportunities, work on all skills and positions, and have fun with their friends. Whether you want to build your program, raise some funds, or start your own business, you can bring 3on3 to your community and do it like an expert by learning from the best with 3on3 Hoops Hub's free 90-minute training. You can register at the link in the show notes. I love getting to learn new shooting games from people, and you've probably diagrammed hundreds of them. But what's a few of at least one of your favorite shooting games that you guys play?
There have been some that we do, and then some that I've just saw and stolen from others. Some that we've just like made up on the fly, and sometimes they're the best drills ever, and sometimes they're the worst. And so I start with that to say, this could be something that looks a little bit different based off of what your offensive system is. I think all of us will have heard of and use the phrase to some degree, game shots from game spots at game speed. And sure, that's ideal, and you try to do that, but that maybe look different for me versus from what it does for you. Sometimes it depends on whether or not are we talking a team practice? Are we talking an individual workout or a small group workout? I do still think that block shooting, on air, just getting up shot after shot after shot is good because of the motor connection, and just the reps that go along with that. But I do also think it's important for you to have a defender sometimes. I'm probably not going to have one of those things that you tie around your forehead with a hand that's like in your face, that they use. I don't know if anybody's ever seen those. If you use one of those, that's fine. Again, a lot of different ways to do things, but I'm probably not gonna have something.
It's my favorite thing, Coach. You just know.
Yeah, okay. I saw one back there in the back behind you. So there are a lot of different types of drills that we'll use. We'll usually, for the last 15 to 20 minutes of every practice, just get up a ton of shots. Sometimes they'll partner up and just shoot from different spots. We call it our Bruin shooting, but it's basically just a combination that changes sometimes it'll be every 2 minutes or 6 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on what the rotation is or whatever. And sometimes it's just around the 5 spots. Sometimes it's two shots from each spot. But, I'm not opposed to standing in one spot and getting a bunch of shots up for a long time, which I know sounds really boring, but probably a little bit more that probably your listeners are wanting to hear are things that for us we'll do a lot of. So, a slot to slot pass usually ends with a drive that goes down the lane, like a seam drive, depending on what you call it or whatever. And then based off of that, if the defense helps off in the corner, we're pitching to the corner and playing out of that. So my point is that we'll actually take our offense and break down our offense into 2 or 3 actions that then are a shot. I like a lot of times to get up 2 shots at a time. So I'll just explain it this way. So if you have a slot, and a corner,
yep,
and the ball starts in the middle, so on the one slot, and it goes to the other slot, so it's passed, we in our offense slice.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we do one other action, but for the sake of this explanation, so we'll slice cut towards the opposite corner, and the guy who just caught the ball catches it and drives immediately, and he'll pitch out to the corner. And when he pitches out to the corner, that guy will either shoot. You could have him shoot. The guy who just pitched will maybe go relocate out to the wing, and we'll get a shot from the wing. So there's always 2 shots that are going up. So there'll be another coach, like a coach standing on the baseline, that passes it back out to that player there on the wing that passed it to the corner guy. So we're always getting 2 shots up with every drive. And I've seen teams like Furman's here close by with Coach Ritchie, and I go over and watch them for practice sometimes. They do that they run a conceptual offense. They're kind of more like 5 out, your traditional, like what you're seeing 5 out today. Sometimes some Princeton stuff. So they'll do 2-ball stuff within their Princeton or their 5 out stuff. I've seen Duke do this with basically kind of like a modified drive and kick. It's dribble drive, kind of before dribble drive was. But, whatever it is, whatever your actions are, try to get 2 to 3 shots up within each of those actions. I think just things that are just volume shooting is good. I like one that's super simple where we just place 4 guys around the perimeter. 1 guy's in the corner, 2 guys in the slot, and then 1 guy in the opposite corner. Ball starts underneath and we throw it out to the corner and we just go one more. So one
Yeah.
more, one more, one more, one more, and there's a shot from the corner. We'll do that for 2 minutes. Then we'll switch it up and we'll go ball to the corner, throw it one more to the slot, drive the slot, pitch to the corner, and then one up from the corner. And what you're really saying is like those are natural actions and things that happen within our offense. And so when we get into a game, I don't have to scream one more, or make the extra pass. Like the guys just do it because that's what we practice. It's nothing, there's nothing special about it.
Yeah.
They just know that like when I have the ball and there's a guy closing out of me and somebody's next to me without it, like I just throw it over there. That's just what we do. So I would just encourage you to kind of simulate what you do within your offense and the shots that you're getting. There was once upon a time where I was taking like one dribble pull-ups and side steps and that kind of stuff, but we didn't get those things within our offensive system. If that's something you get in your offensive system, then do it.
Mm.
But I think there is a level of like creativity that we as coaches need to have. You don't need to go to Twitter and you don't need to go. I know I'm killing my potential for Twitter followers here, but like you don't need to go follow somebody like me to get new drills. You can come up with them, and maybe the drills that I give to you are bad for your offense because what I give to you wasn't designed for me. It was or wasn't designed for you. It was designed
Yeah.
for me. So, yeah, go look and see what other coaches are doing. But if it doesn't fit what you're doing, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You're kind of wasting your time where you're not maximizing your time.
Yeah.
So just kind of how can I get up the most shots as possible or emphasize or re-emphasize what's important within my offense. So it can translate into more than just being better shooters in the game. If I can teach another concept like driving to attack space and then kicking and relocating and then getting a shot or making the one more pass. Those are concepts that are as important to the shot because if I don't have those concepts, I'm never going to get a shot.
So let me ask you this, because it seems to be a little bit of a divide when a lot of people hear skill development, they immediately go to the skilled trainers, and the 2 ball, tennis ball cones. And I am personally a fan of some accountability drills, especially with when teaching players movements and helping them to get lower than they're comfortably they'd like to get. But you hear when a lot of people hear skill development, they go there. But then you're talking about skill development is breaking your offense down into parts and teaching them those movements and actions while you're getting shots up, while you're working on your ball handling. But is there a way to blend those two within a practice, or are you exclusively the one that is purely concept driven?
So I used to be the guy with the 2 balls, and I still do that kind of thing sometimes. In the summertime, I think it's fun sometimes for the guys. I think it's a fun change of pace for them. I think they kind of think about it different um, when they're practicing those kinds of things. Can those sometimes be a little bit of a waste of a time tossing a tennis ball at them? Yeah, sure. But again, in the summertime, I don't feel the time crunch necessarily that I feel during the season.
Yeah.
And that's again to our point of maximizing that time. I do also think that there is something that can be said for motor development for each kid and their improvement there. I do think for like emphasizing footwork, you can do a lot of that in the summertime and just kind of slow things down and help them. So I'm almost training like motor skills rather than like skill development to make my team a better offense.
Hmm.
And, a lot of coaches can combine all of that into their normal practices. You don't need 2 balls. You don't need a tennis ball. You don't, but again, I think there is something that can be said for a lot of reps doing the same thing over and over. But yeah, there's once the season starts, I don't necessarily have time to dribble 2 balls up and down the floor um, because I should be doing the other things. Again,
Yeah.
what matters to
What
winning,
what leads to winning, right?
right?
Yep.
And so for us, yeah, our entire practice, I think, is skill development.
Hmm.
And skills too, that may be something where you need to emphasize or kind of define what you're saying. But I emphasize with my players, I'm trying to teach you decision making skills. I'm trying to teach you, yes, your your technical skills of shooting or passing, or, which, I don't want to come to a jump stop. I want to actually come to a stride stop instead. So you should use this kind of footwork. And when you put it that way, like, again, I'm not going to have time to talk about footwork necessarily while they're playing a 5-on-5. That's not probably the best place to do that. But I have already talked about that in our individual workout, or we've worked at that with like our daily vitamins, if that's the kind of thing that you have or whatever. So I do think that you can incorporate it throughout. I do think that there is a problem, again, with balance being the key word, with
Yeah.
some who will come. Again, there's always some on Twitter who'll come and be like, we do all that through 5-on-5. All we do is play, and I teach them the skills and I teach them everything. Like, okay, maybe so. But for our program, I found that it's better to kind of mix things up. Sometimes do on air, 1-on-0, skilled for this. Do we do it long? No. But then doing it in 3-on-3, and freezing it and running it back and saying, okay, your eye should have been here, this is the skill that you should have used, so this finish instead of this finish. Why? Oh yeah, you were right, coach. The defender was behind me, not hip to hip with me. I had a big advantage, not a small advantage. I should have used a straight finish. Skill development. But I was able to do within a game, within a 3-on-3. We didn't just practice that on air. And once your skill development becomes game applicable, that's where you are going to accelerate the learning of players and how that translates into actual gameplay. If you are a coach who is constantly frustrated with, I practiced that 1,000 times, why aren't you doing that in the game? The fault is not of the players. The fault is of you. You did not help them understand the connection. There's the old book, they haven't learned, or that you haven't taught until they've learned. Like, that's the case. And by the way, that was like John Wood in 1970s, Swin Nader, Bill Walton, all those guys. Like, it's the learning has been the same for decades. And again, this isn't something new. So just because they aren't doing it in the game isn't something new. Like, you haven't taught yet. And I do think that you can accelerate that. It looks better in games if you're able to make the connection points between the skill development that you do with them and the actual gameplay. And that's where I found that the small-sided games have really helped our guys understand the game better, and it makes the 5-on-5 look a whole lot better, a whole lot faster.
And I like what you said too about maybe the summer being different, because at your level, I mean, you really have players that are all there, wanting to be college players, hopefully wanting to win, right, and to be a part of your program. I'm in a little bit of a unique situation, being at a smaller private school in Texas, where 3/4 of my team, they are not at Grapevine Faith for basketball. They're there for the academics, for the Christian environment. And so there's this idea for me of, one, I mean, I can't waste any time. I have to try to get them as good as I possibly can, but out of season, creating a little bit more fun. And not personally, to me, breaking down our offense and working through flow, we call it alley stretch. That's fun to me, and we can get deep into that. But in April, allowing them to stretch their creativity, push their boundaries. I'm at a level where they are still developing motor skills. I was able to talk with one of the old Mavs trainer, skill coach for a little while, and I brought up some of these, like, I've seen some videos of NBA players doing some of these things. And he was like, they don't need that. They're NBA players. They're so beyond that, That's just a show. They just need to do simple things over. And I completely get that. But then I kind of go back to, and if there's probably a lot of people out there listening at my level where I can't just have it be the same thing every day, but I have to choose things that are fun, are creative, that I feel like will get them where I want them to be quicker. And they're all playing select ball, hopefully, where they're hearing different things too. So like faith basketball kind of has to end a little bit. And now it's just purely about them and their development. But that's just the way I've chosen to view it.
Yeah, For us, it's actually unique. I'm not allowed to do anything with them in the off season because we're a Division III school. So they're on their own.
Mm,
And I was walking out of a class that I was teaching this afternoon in the gym and saw some guys on one of the other courts, and they were doing stuff with cones and kind of stationary and whatever. And um, but I know that's not the only thing that they're doing.
yeah.
But if they're enjoying it, especially for age groups that you're working with, I think that's the biggest thing for us. If they're not enjoying it, they're probably not giving the effort and the mental focus to it that they could be. And you're basically, because you're so rigid on this is the way that we're going to do it, we're only going to do it this way. We're not going to do anything fun, or what's fun to you is not what's fun to them, to your point before, then it's going to hurt you in the long run. So there has to be a balance. I think,
Yeah.
that's another theme that we've been talking about. There has to be a balance between, like, this is the right way to do it. This is the way that I know it's to be done, but nobody's having fun with it. I do think that you can do things to make it fun. That's why we're playing more of like the games approach. But
Yeah.
um, there's also a place for some of the other stuff that's silly, and that if you were to post on Instagram, you get 1,000 comments on how stupid of a coach you are. Like, sure, I will do that every now and then just to post it to, and people unfollow me and say that I'm stupid, whatever, and I just laugh. But they like it. They like throwing a tennis ball. They like. I have sometimes they're like juggling. They're snatching a ball while they're dribbling it too. Like that. That's never going to happen in a game. That's not.
Right.
There's next to no game application to that. But they came into the gym and they're working hard for 30 seconds. Like, I can take 30 seconds in the middle of April when I'm training this junior high kid to do something silly because he liked it. Like, that's just, there needs to be a balance of, I don't want to
Yeah.
waste the kid's money and the kid's time again if I'm doing that the entire time. But there should be something that goes for trainers who allow kids to have fun. Now, if you're a goober and you just think like that's the only way and you've got a billion dribbling moves in
Yeah.
one spot,
If it's
like,
just a circus act where you're just trying to
yeah,
wow
you're
people.
stealing people's money and you're
Yeah.
wasting people's time. I have an ethical problem with that.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's fun that can help them improve or whatever, and then you go and do something else, like, I have no problem with that.
In the same way that I think you and I go out and try to learn from other coaches, especially about, offensive player, or it could be on even the defensive side. I just don't talk about that side much myself, but um, I really like to try to research good skill coaches and see, because I see my players the most in high school. They spend the most time with me, so I've tried to take on that role of guys in the spring. Save your money, and allow me to be your skills coach. But one of these guys that I've really found, Michael Lancaster from I'm Possible. He to me, there are a few things that I might not do just with the level of player, or doesn't make sense to me. But majority of the things, he has game connectors for whatever they're doing. It's a way to help the players understand, why is this in my hand? What is it helping connect me to when I play?
Mhm.
If you don't do that, then it is just a circus act, and it's something that will never translate for them. So I think the way that you articulate those drills and the why behind it is really important too, right?
Yeah, I think you just said about the why, whether that's the dribbling moves or even something that you're doing within your practices where you're working on something that doesn't look at that moment like 5-on-5. The faster that you can help them understand the why behind what you're doing there, they'll buy into it faster, and they'll get a picture, the bigger picture of like what we're trying to accomplish here, and they'll buy into it faster. And it'll produce better results out on the court faster.
Two themes I feel like that we've kind of had throughout this whole talk is one, balance in everything that you're doing with your style of play, with how you're coaching, how you're practicing your skill work, even your shooting, but then also uh, helping them um, to find out what leads to winning quicker, and then making sure you're everything that you're doing, from the way that you lift, the analytics you show them and talk about, the practice plan that you have, and the skill work that you do, reevaluate what is fluff that you can let go. How can you shorten your workout 5 to 10 minutes and let them go home and go eat and be with their friends? Like that to me has been a huge takeaway from what you've been saying.
I think it goes quicker to building a culture for your program. And there are a lot of people that are walking around that say that we have a culture, but if
Mm,
you were to examine it, they probably just have they have a lot of things that they believe in, but there's no connection to those things that they believe in. And so they may be teaching a lot of great things and building great components, but they haven't necessarily like built a house. They've just built a bunch of like individual buildings. And I think that, for us too, we're a Christian institution. Like there are things that are completely non-basketball related, but maybe something that basketball allows us to have a platform to communicate to these guys too. That all goes to our culture, but they see how those things even fit into the daily things that we're doing with them.
yeah.
And what's your purpose? What's your why? And what does that serve for your greater, if you don't want to use culture, like for who you are? I mean, that's whether or not you want to use that term or not, or like that term or not, like you do have a culture around your program. It just may be a disorganized one. And it may not lead to go bigger picture than just winning games, but like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
I would guess like for us, like we're trying to build young men. We're trying to help them become better leaders, better husbands, better whatever it is. How can the basketball give me an opportunity to do that? That should be reflected even in how I organize my practices. And as silly as that may sound, I think I've observed teams that do that well, and their entire culture is special. That those people are just special.
Mm,
And it goes to the terminology that you use. It goes to the emphasis that you place on footwork. Like, no, we have to do this the right way. Well, there's a bigger lesson behind that. Like, so I would encourage you to kind of like be balanced in what you do. If it's all about one thing or all about the other, you're probably out of balance, and therefore your culture is kind of out of balance. But really examine what you do, and is this making us better at whatever our core values are or whatever. So yeah, I think it's all interrelated and it's all important. But there are some things that are more important than others, like we've
yeah.
been discussing, just
Yeah.
like the analytics behind it. And are you spending time on stuff that actually matters? If you tell me that one of our goals with our programs is to make better leaders, better men, and I come to your program and all you do is practice basketball and you have a 30-second like word of the day, I'm calling your bluff right there.
Yeah.
So why are we doing anything? And if it's not helping us achieve what our goal is and making our culture stronger, then we need to get rid of it.
Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.